Hey everyone, Randy Wild here. I want to talk to you about what my passion is, and that's helping students find their passion in life. I want to make the largest possible positive impact um, on students and their future. I want to help them discover opportunities. I want to help them find an avenue for them to be successful and help them kind of develop a path for a better future and better opportunities. I'm a problem solver. I don't believe in dead ends unless you just absolutely quit and give up. I help students overcome transportation issues, financial issues. We try to work on test scores to get them into different programs, help them kind of overcome some family history and some hurdles there, and then also working with students with disabilities to have some personal hurdles to get over as well. And the outcomes are a huge part of my job. Whether trying to get them a paying job while they're in high school, helping them find an advancement career that doesn't require any post-secondary training, finding programs like tech schools for 1 and 2 year certificates. A lot of kids can still obviously go on to 2 and 4 year colleges, or military is another option that I help kids discover their path in. But the biggest thing is just I'm passionate about helping kids find opportunities to be successful after high school. Some of my professional background, I didn't love school, but going to college and playing sports and getting those scholarships kind of helped me discover what my passion is and working with youth and students and helping them kind of prepare for their future. I've been in education for 13 years. I've worked as a sub, a para, then into a special education job, and then now I'm a transition coordinator. I've been a head coach for, I think, 10 years now, and an assistant coach for 13. My current job is I'm the transition coordinator for Call Valley USD 321. That encompasses St. Mary's and Rossville high schools. I work with students usually just between the ages of 13 and 21, helping them find concurrent credits, again, to help them find a better path to success. After high school, we work on industry recognized certificates. I'm in work with the work study program, help kids get out and job shadow and discover new careers. And then our resource night is a big part of my job as well, getting as many local and area resources together for students and families, either to find help or to continue their education. So we get as many vendors out in our district as possible. And that's a big part of my yearly planning. Some of my personal information: I've been married for 10 years. I have a 6-year-old daughter, Tinley, and I have an 18-month-old son, Rhett. We live in a small town located between Topeka and Manhattan called Maple Hill. And the biggest thing about me is I feel very fortunate to love what I do every day. I get to wake up, go to work every day, and have fun helping kids. So some of the course information for this module, we'll talk about oral, written, and digital communication, and some different forms of that in my district, and some things that I use and want to use. So currently, some of the oral communication, we have the school reach voicemail that goes out for various reasons. Typically, it's the superintendent's. Um, it can also be the building principals, and then sometimes teachers can send announcements out there, but it's rarely used with anybody outside the administration team. We have our daily announcements done by intercom, and then obviously daily instructions delivered by teachers and various leaders in the building is all going to be through that oral communication method. Written, we have a school newspaper, and then we obviously rely heavily on local newspapers in small town. There's a lot of communication delivered that way. Emails could kind of fall into that digital and written area, and then our daily bulletin would kind of fall into the same category. Digital forms of communication, our district is really big into social media, as everybody kind of is now, but through Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and then we have our school websites. Some sports teams have their team websites that communicate through. Obviously, Google Classroom. We're a Google for Education school, so we have all access to the G Suite tools and a lot of those organizations, and everybody has kind of a classroom page now where they can communicate as well. We also have a Bears broadcast or a Rossville dog feed for the different schools, which is just videos being uploaded to YouTube every day for the school to watch, but then also parents can just search that YouTube channel and they can find the daily announcements as well. So some of the frequent flyers in our community, the e-bulletin, I think is the biggest one. That's something that the secretaries send out every day. All 4 buildings do some form of that in our district. And that is the most consistent form of communication used. The YouTube announcements, like I said, the 2 high schools utilize those. Social media is big. The elementary schools have even got on board and are doing more and more through social media. Our district and school website obviously has tons of resources and information. And then the emailing, and then the team and class websites, that's daily communication that goes on between students, teachers, and sponsors. I know some of the things they purchased this year, Zoom was one of them. We had a shortage with the Spanish teacher situation in the district, and so they utilized Zoom to get a licensed teacher into the classroom. That came at a cost. There's a program, NEPRIS, that Wichita State and their technical school is kind of working on a grant, and that's something that I've looked into, which I think it's around $1,500 to get in on their pilot program. But this brings professionals from all over the world into our classrooms, and so that's something that districts are always weighing with finances, is the one's first needs, and this is no different. The impact that this module had on me, I would say that the biggest part was it just made me think more about introductions. Before I would just kind of introduce myself, give a little demographic, and then get into more of the meat of the assignment. So I think doing some of this research and some of the reading provided in the module, it just made me think a little deeper about introductions and made me want to be a little more creative. I've never started one of these introductions the way I did, explaining my passions and what I do without actually talking about my title and day-to-day grind type information. So it made me want to be more creative. I think you can convey deeper meanings and more meaningful information to your audience with actually less detail and factuals. I think that it made me want to practice a little bit more. Before, I've always just turned on the webcam and probably started my introduction, but this made me think a little deeper about it, so that's important. And so I know going through this, it'll make me put together a better first impression when I am a principal and introducing myself to my staff for the first time. In the future, I think if I'm introducing myself to a pre-K building, I would maybe use like a Powtoon presentation, just to kind of fall into some more of the typical elementary presentations that you might see. Middle school and high school, I think Prezi would be a good option if I didn't just want to do a YouTube video, or if I didn't want to do a Google slide introduction or a webcam like this one. I think Prezi would be a good option for middle school or high school. And just the main thing is showing my passion. Like, what am I passionate about? They need to see my family, they need to know my family, but my why as an educator, my why as a administrator, a building leader, to let them get to know me on a deeper level, to let me convey what I want to do for them and with them. It's the biggest thing that I want that introduction to get across. Some of our district policies, there's not a lot written. It kind of repeats the same statements over and over again, that the superintendent will effectively communicate with building principals will effectively communicate with staff, staff and building leaders effectively communicate with stakeholders. That's kind of repeated over and over again, but our building leaders really stress, we shouldn't have one-on-one communication with students unless it's just strictly homework driven through like a class website or an email through the Google Classroom. And clear, consistent, necessary communication. We should always be approachable. That's one thing they talk to sponsors a lot about, and teachers. Just be approachable. Don't be shut off to communication with parents and students. We always have to protect students' confidentiality, and try to respond to emails. That 24-hour rule. And the biggest thing, and I think with coaches especially too, is that proactive communication, being available, being proactive, solving problems before they get too large. And teachers shouldn't just communicate with students and parents at parent-teacher conference or every quarter or when a benchmark or milestone is coming up. This should be constant communication. Problems shouldn't be a surprise and need to be communicated, again, consistently and clearly. So that's the end of my presentation. the resources here, and thank you guys for tuning in.